So the thing is, what's actually being lived, in other words, I mean, we keep saying what is, to differentiate actual life, aliveness, actual life being lived, to point to the difference between that and the story of the appearance that seems to be what life is about. Me and my life, the world, and everything going on. Okay? That isn't actually being lived, is the point. Ah. Life is always fully here, fully being what it is, fully being lived. But that life, that aliveness, isn't being lived by a person. It isn't in the format of the story of my life, of me. Me seems to be in that form. It's a very present, we call it an illusion. It's an appearance of how it is, but life is, what's actually being lived is not that. It's this aliveness. In other words, it's just this, well, you can call it presence. We want to avoid words like presence because that seems like a thing. I mean, that's just a quirk of language. We're always running up against that because I'm talking, using language. And there's always we always want to say, we backtrack every sentence, every word. We want to say, well, no, I don't really mean that. So I don't really mean life. I mean the appearance of life. I don't really mean it's being lived because it's not being lived by anyone. But what, you have to keep covering for the fact that language gives the wrong impression. Inherently, it does. But what do you get? There's nothing to do about that. Get used to it, I guess. But the whole point is what is actually being lived is not anything that has anything to do with this story of what's going on. It never collects a story around it. It never becomes anything that we can talk about or say anything about or point to. It's here. Not even here, but here as what is. And that is what is. That is what is being lived all the time. And the story of me, the story of life and what's going on in the news and in my day is never here. It never becomes real. That's why this message. And that's the dilemma for me. Me is all about the story. Me is the story. Living the story. And living the story of trying to get out of the story. That is what the story is. Being bound up by the story. And all the contradictions, because the story is a contradiction. All stories are contradictions. That's duality. Duality means one side against another. It's cut into two. And for the me, for the one in the middle of it all, it's always playing one against the other. And it feels like one side of me against the other. I mean, that's the essential, that's what psychology is all about. You're trying to manage this duality, the dualism of the person. All these contradictory forces, and this contradiction, because the me experience is a contradiction. Duality is a contradiction. It isn't really, but that's how it plays out. That's how it appears. That's duality. And duality is also the way things appear. It's the way the world takes its form, the way it is able to be a world. There wouldn't be a world without duality. Duality is the language or the principle of appearance, of worlds, of person, of experience, essentially. So there is no experience without this quality of one against the other. There would be nothing appearing without duality. So duality is, and it's, again, it's a mystery. That is the mystery. No one knows, no one can say what it is, what is duality, what is a world, what is an appearance. What is this? What am I? What is a video? All of this. It's just mystery, pure mystery. And there's really nothing to do except behold the mystery, which is really what quote unquote, everyone is doing, because that's all there is to do. Behold the mystery. You can say, just poetically, mythologically, the Creator created the world and then just beheld the mystery of it all. And that's the end of the story. Well, that's what we're doing here. Although it doesn't seem like it a lot of the time. And it certainly doesn't seem like it to the me, and particularly when that me is particularly strong and heavy. And it seems like, the me experience can have different forms, sometimes it's really heavy, sometimes it's more light, more playful, more of an experience of the unseriousness, or the lightness of being. The unbearable lightness, because it can't be born. There's nothing to... What is born, in other words, what is taken on as a weight, what is to bear the burden is always heavy. The burden is always heavy. And for me, the one who feels like the character in the story having a separate experience, it is a weight. It is heavy, no matter how the experience is. It is heavy. For the experience of separation is felt as heaviness, no matter. Because it's that conflict, that contradiction, that one side of me rubbing up against the other side. One side of the coin trying to resolve the contradiction of being two sides. That's kind of an, technical way to talk about it, but it just feels like this stress of trying to get out of the bind. Now, it doesn't, for most people's ordinary experience, it doesn't there's no, not necessarily a feeling of that. Of course, it is felt all the time, throughout the day. All these little things poke out. But I mean, the normal experience, people wouldn't say, oh, I'm feeling stress. I'm feeling the burden of being alive, the burden of contradiction, the burden of duality. No. It's ordinary life. And for most people, I mean, particularly for us, advanced 21st century, nominally Western people, life is reasonably okay. I mean, aside from the news and aside from global crisis and all of that. But, we got the house, we got, the kids, and we have hope of things working out okay. Getting through the day is pretty okay, more or less. So that's the normal experience. So that the contradiction is not felt full on, generally. It's mediated by experience, by the distraction of the world and of the story. The story has a distracting quality to it. And that's what the whole world is about. The whole economy, the whole the whole world of Netflix and advertising and TV and all the content of the culture is presenting ways to solve the problem of me. Buy this, have this experience, do better at this. It takes the me experience for granted and then presents a way for the me to do better at what it's trying to do. The me is trying to get better. It's trying to make the experience better. It's trying to take this experience and convert it to something better. So that, again, that's the whole narrative, the whole story, the whole world of culture and education and knowledge and the life that we live. Relationship, the whole story. It's about getting better. How can I make this experience better?